In this video, we're going to take a look at a jazz piano reharmonization that I did for the popular jazz standard MISTY. Hey, it's Tobey here from Jazzmentl.com. Thanks for joining me for another one of my tutorials. In this one, we're going to take a look at this reharmonization that uses some pretty interesting chord progressions. We're going to talk about diminished chord progressions and other things that you can apply to not just the standard MISTY, but pretty much any jazz standard that you choose, or even your own music. A little bit later, I'm going to post a link to the sheet music. Let's dive right in and listen to the first part of this reharmonization that I did at the grand piano, because, you know, it just sounds a little bit better on the grand piano than it does on the keyboard. Let's listen to it together. All right, let's take a look at the sheet music together. In those very first few chords, you've got this, and then this. Now, that's a really big departure from the way that Erroll Garner played it. Lots of runs and lines and arpeggios, mainly based in thirds. This is a little bit more modern. Well, actually, it's quite a bit more modern way to play. And I'm using a fair amount of dissonance here. So we're going to analyze this together. The first chord is basically, like it said, B diminished, which is this, but it's over B flat. And the reason we do that is because it comes from the diminished scale. For example, if we start the diminished scale on B flat and go up half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, half, whole, all of the notes in this chord are from that scale. All you're doing is in the lowest notes putting this minor second, then your diminished chord, and then you're repeating the lowest note in the melody. And if you follow the diminished chord around, you can see that that's where we're getting the first few voicings from. B diminished, then A flat, same actual diminished chord, but over A flat. And then finally, a different diminished chord, in this case, E flat diminished, but over D. So the formula for those chords is exactly the same. All right, let's move on to this next little section here, where we're moving to the destination chord B flat minor 7th, and we've got two chords leading up to that. The first chord is, if you consider it to be like a 2-5-1 of B flat minor, this would be 2 and this would be 5. But as you can see, it's over B, so we're taking the tritone substitution of F and putting in a B chord. C half diminished 7th to B 7 flat 9. And that's all we're doing. It's like a 2-5-1 leading to the destination chord B flat minor. From the beginning, then our 2-5. And then in the left hand, we're going to run this little line cliche. So it's basically just changing the bass note by a half step. And then we've got these chords again. The first two are exactly the same. And of course, we're talking about these chords here. These two. They're the same as the first ones over here. Same formula. And then we're using fourths with the G in the melody. It's an F9 sus4 chord. And then this chord, which is my favorite. It says no chord, but basically what you've got is a fifth in the bass, perfect fifth, and then a perfect fifth in the melody. You put those two together, get this lovely sound. And in context of the entire phrase, it sounds great. And then you've got inner voices here. And then something that Bill Evans used to do, arpeggiating both hands, but separated by some type of interval. The interval in this case is a major 7th, then a minor 6th, but it's all from the A flat major 7 chord. Nice sound. And then to the A flat minor 9th. Inner voices in the left hand right here. That's what really makes that progression sound great. Throw down a bass note and then 3, 6, 2, 5. Notice that I'm anticipating the sharp 5 with the 6th or the 13th. So the 13th to the sharp 5. That's a typical sort of C7 sharp 9 chord over F sharp, F minor. And then thirds in the right hand. This is a Bill Evans trick. So if we scroll down a little bit and get the first time ending, you've got a 3, 6, 2, 5 there as well. Inner voices are different. In this case, you've got 2 inner voices. You've got this one here and this one here in both hands. And then back to the top. I love that sound of the diminished chord. So that may sound a little harsh to some ears, but we talk a lot about phrasing in these tutorials in that you really don't want to pound out those chords. I mean, it just sounds harsh, but if you play them right and make sure that the melody note is accented more than the other notes, it's a nice sound. Now, of course, it sounds better on the grand piano than it does on the keyboard. Okay, there's the A section. It just repeats, and then you've got a second time ending, which we'll talk about in a minute. Let's go back and hear the grand piano recording, and we'll go through that section together. So now the second time ending. Notice we didn't end on 1. And then the recording goes on to play the last A section. So what I want to do is start on the second time ending here and take a look. I know it says E flat 6th, but we're really changing the chord. I mean, typically it would be E flat, but we're changing it to go over B flat, and we're doing a sus chord. So B flat 13 sus, which is basically, instead of playing 1, you're continuing to move the chord progression forward rather than making it finish. So it would be and then going up a half step to a diminished chord. And then you've got this lovely progression leading into the bridge. From the second time ending, let's look at that progression here. The first part is basically 6th diminished scale. So the first chord is C minor 7, then every other chord is a diminished chord. So it would go to the G7 flat 9 chord or D diminished 7, and then up the scale to E flat major 7. And now we're changing to this C minor 7 flat 5 to B7. I know it says no chord there, but I just like the sound of it. It's really a B7 flat 9 chord, but we're just changing these two notes down a half step. So let's play that progression again. Great progression. And then B flat minor 7 with a line cliche, just going down a half step. Erroll Garner does that as well. And I love this one. So that's an inner voice which is going from the A flat augmented or sharp 5 to the 6th, okay? And then we've got this progression. It starts off the same, but it changes now because we're going to A minor instead of B flat minor. So the chord here is the same as before, except it's sus chord, all for C, but then we're changing to B flat with a sharp 11. So B flat 7, sharp 11 chord, a little bit different voicing to A minor. So let's listen to that progression again. All right, let's move down a little bit to the next section where you've got this A minor chord. So that's where you're using triads, root position triads in the right hand. In the first case, G to F to G. And then D7 sharp 11. It's a simple D7 sharp 11. Okay? And then F7 sharp 11. Again, root position triads in the right hand. And then I love this chord. G7 sharp 9 sharp 5. And then inner voices to F minor. And then back to the top of the tune. Okay, there's the bridge. The only other thing that I wanted to talk about in this is the turnaround at the end. So let's take it from bar 23 at the beginning of the first line here. We've had this before, like when we led to the bridge. Then we're going to C minor, B7 sharp 11, then B flat 7 flat 9. So one more time, that progression from C minor 7, the beginning of bar 26. And then to solos. I'm going to talk about soloing over this tune in another video. The goal for this transcription was to use the richest chords possible. There definitely is some dissonance in there. It's something that the ear can really hear in comparison to a traditional way of playing MISTY. I mean, lots of cocktail piano players play MISTY. If you actually listen to the way that Erroll Garner plays it, it's very frilly, lots of arpeggios and things like that. This is a very different approach, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to make the sheet music available in this link here up in the corner. Please go check that out. It really helps the channel when you do things like that. Also, if you'd like to make any comments or you'd like to share something about MISTY, please do so in the comments below. And if you'd like to hit the little thumbs up button while you're down there, that really helps the channel as well. Thanks so much for doing that. And if you're looking for more jazz piano reharmonizations, I've got plenty of videos on this channel that can really help you with your chord voicings. Please go and check out this video next.